And with me now is Chief Cindy Woodhouse Nepinak, National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations. Chief, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Your thoughts on the meeting yesterday?
Look, I think, I think that it was a good first step. I know I was speaking to many chiefs last night, asking them their thoughts, and a lot of them were very, very thankful that the Prime Minister rolled up his sleeves, stayed the full day with First Nations yesterday, heard their concerns, and there's a lot of work to do. So I just, I look forward to the months ahead. And, I just hope that, the Prime Minister had committed to go province by province, territory by territory. So, we're going to hold him to that to make sure that he goes to each region and meets with First Nations in their territories.
What are the big concerns for you?
Look, I think that there's still a diversity of opinions out there. I'm glad that the Prime Minister was there. We have requested that he work with us to close the $350 billion infrastructure gap that exists on First Nations communities at the moment. We don't want to be having these same conversations 30 years from now. Our grandchildren shouldn't have to have these same conversations. And look, our children, all of our children, whether they're on or off reserve, deserve to have proper schools, proper housing, safe communities, infrastructure, roads, and I just think that, access to high-speed internet, things that our kids take for granted off reserve, children on reserve don't have access to those basic necessities that many Canadians take for granted. And so I know that they're not easy conversations to have, but it's so necessary that we have those conversations to come up with a proper plan to close the huge First Nations infrastructure gap in this country. So we had those discussions yesterday.
And are you optimistic about that in the process, that those will be included, those concerns, and changes will come?
We have to come up with a plan together, a joint plan that we're going to stick with, because I know that there was a plan to close it to the year 2030, and I think that we're off track on that. And, we need to get back to the table to close that infrastructure gap. I think that that's one thing that's uniting. Another promising aspect was that the Prime Minister yesterday in his closing remarks said that, he would, he heard it loud and clear from chiefs in the room that there can't be budget cuts to First Nations programs and services come the fall. We know that this country's, that his government's looking to cut, and they cannot do that to First Nations people when the gaps are so far apart. And when we're trying to close that infrastructure gap, that will not be helpful.
Do you think the two sides are close enough that we will see national projects being built, though, sometime in the relative near future?
I think there's a lot of discussions happening. I know I've seen a lot of different plans coming in from all over the country. I think First Nations are not against prosperity. However, they do not want their rights trampled on because of a project. And I think that there's already a lot of projects underway across this country. And it matters when it becomes, relationships. It's like if you have a house and you have a piece of land there with you, do you want someone to come and build something there without you being at that table? And it's the same way with First Nations. I think any smart company, any smart investors, and governments, whether that be provincial or federal, they need to make sure that they're working directly with the First Nations in their traditional territories across this country when they're thinking of big, massive projects, and not an afterthought. They have to start working with First Nations right away. And, the people there will guide you and say yes or say no, and or find that way forward, that middle ground forward. It's like in any, with anybody, but okay, you have to make sure that you reach out to First Nations directly.
Okay, Chief, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks so very much.
Chief Cindy Woodhouse Nepinak is the National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations.